This is a session I've been looking forward to for the better part of 6 weeks. This is shaping the future of talent acquisition. We have a tremendous amount of shift and opportunity in markets, and as we look at this, and what does recovery look like? How does the future of talent acquisition look? And I couldn't think of a more appropriate person to lead this conversation than Susan Burns. Susan gets very deep on these topics and is someone that I always look to for perspective. I always look at what Susan's position is on a few things, and then I try to find my own opinion in there. So I think you influence me big time. So we're going to take a bit of a different approach on this one. Susan is a master facilitator, so she's just going to work with us a little bit, share some points of view on this, and then Master is going to join and open this up into a sort of a combo conversation and dialogue. So you're in fantastic hands. I'm going to step off on this one here. Very important that we get the questions on this because this is our future. You know, if we're in this room and we're talking about this, if you're watching live, make sure you're submitting your questions via the chat, top right-hand corner in the submit a question, and also let's light up the phone lines on this one so you can get some interaction with both Master and Susan. So Susan, rock and roll.
Thanks, Eric.
Look into the future here.
Nothing like a little bit of pressure when there hasn't been a whole lot of sleep going on, you know? But this is a really important topic. I think it's a really fun topic. I think it's fun to sort of explore where we're going, and it was very cool to see that when we were kind of looking at how we were bringing different topics together, that the work that I was doing and working with Kevin Wheeler in Future of Talent was very similar to what Master was working on with John Sullivan, and we took very different approaches to a certain degree, but they're very complementary. So that's what we're sort of going to start to present to you today. So think of this as sort of just some exploratory concepts. I think that it begins to build off of a lot of the things that we've been talking about today. And at the same time, if you're kind of struggling with some of the things, you know, depending on where your organization might be in terms of things like technology, resources, a talent philosophy, brand, social strategies, some of this is going to feel potentially a little bit overwhelming. And this is really just meant to be sort of big picture, some food for thought. So, and actually I'm going to have Tricia come up because she is going to take a couple of your thoughts and comments, and if people on virtual want to put some things in via the tweet stream, we'll try and pick some of those up as well. Some of you know I have a yoga background. I was going to make you go into a little bit of a meditation, but I'm not going to do that. So aren't you happy? We're just going to have you sort of, you know, focus on some of these because these are really important to what we've been talking about and will help set the direction to where we're going. So my first question for you. What do we believe and value about our relationship and commitment to people? So just gut reaction immediately. Anybody have a thought? What comes to mind? Trust and truth. Okay. Integrity. Commonality. Anything else? One or two more thoughts? Our beliefs and values about our relationship and commitment to people. People are important. There's a great quote. I'll never forget this because it was when I first transitioned to talent acquisition from the business side, and there was a lot of stuff happening in like around 99, 2000, and there was a guy named Rusty Roof who at the time was head of HR for Electronic Arts, and he had Anna's written on her head because it may have actually been at your conference that I heard this. They were people before they were resumes. That has stuck with me all these years. It is a fabulous quote. Okay, next one. Gut reaction, relationship between people and innovation. Open minds. Dependency. Visionary. Creatives. Okay. Say again. Fear. Okay, good. Okay, last one. What do we believe and value about the impact of people on business outcomes? Can we get business outcomes without people? So how do we bring those together? What do we believe? What do we value?
Relationship building, that's authentic.
Okay. Vision. Consensus. What does innovation have to do with business outcomes? Anything? Is it maybe more important than it used to be? If you look at businesses today, let's take Apple. I'm a big Apple fan. Is Apple an innovative company? Does that innovation happen without people? And what does recruitment potentially look like at Apple to make sure you get those right people in the door, regardless of what skill they bring? Okay. So I won't put, yes, one more.
Recruit for Apple, so I can answer that question for you.
Okay.
And I will tell you that recruiting for Apple first is an important culture fit. And if someone shows up in a suit to an interview, we would not report the process because it would match we are value.
Okay.
I know a lot of work done right in here.
Okay. So great, and that's the second time we've heard that today with culture fit. Okay? So really, and thank you, Tricia. And really what I'm trying to get here with today is that business today does not happen without people. It's more critical than ever that we have the right cultural fit, we find the right people for the organization. That obviously comes back down to talent acquisition. Okay? So I want to start out with an assumption today. And what our assumption is that talent acquisition is really about solving business problems. Okay? I mean, if you have a business problem, chances are it's coming back to getting the right person in there to solve that problem, regardless of what it is. And who has the depth of knowledge within the organization when it comes to identifying the people that are going to solve those problems? Who should be the experts at that? Is it talent acquisition? I hope so. You know, I mean, and if it's not, then talent acquisition, quite frankly, has a bigger challenge than any of us can even imagine. You know, and obviously in partnership with the HR function. But let's just keep that as sort of this premise that when we think about talent acquisition, we're thinking about a service solution to solving business problems. So today, if we think about how this is done, it's very fragmented. Okay? I did not grow up in HR. I grew up on the business side. And before transitioning into HR, I was managing a $40-some million business, a retail business. We could know by the hour what our sales were. We could see every day what our inventory looked like down to the SKU level. Do organizations know more about their inventory than they do about their internal talent? Do they know more about their customers, potentially, than they know about their talent resources? And why is that? And some of it's just happened for legacy reasons. Some of the things that we've uncovered is that even companies that are really good companies cannot tell you the total size of their workforce because they don't know what contingent labor looks like. They can tell you their employee base. They can guess how many contingent employees they think they have, but they don't really know. And oftentimes they don't really know because that is moved out from talent acquisition. So sometimes there's a relationship there, oftentimes there is not. And where does it end up? It ends up in procurement because people have to get paid. But remember, we're talking about people, we're not talking about reams of paper. And so does that make sense? And as you get fragmented and as you get siloed, you begin to have redundancies. And those are not good, healthy redundancies. And I think that eventually that this will create a lot of risk to organizations. So, if when we map talent to the business, we enable the business, right, because we're providing the resources that solve problems, if that is something that is agreeable, and if talent acquisition is a solutions provider, what if talent acquisition's role is to resource the organization? What if their role is that of a talent broker? So regardless of what the need is, if it's a business need that has to do with a person, talent acquisition, remember, as the experts that have the depth of knowledge about where to find people, how to map those people to the organization, the skills, the culture, right? How to assess what the needs are, how to work with the hiring manager, then why not use that as the sort of central place that those problems get solved? We heard this come up before from Jason, right? You know, the part of the challenge today is that talent acquisition is very reactive. A lot of people like to call that just in time, right? A role opens, boom, just in time, you go out and find it. I call that just behind. Because if you know the role is open today, potentially you're already 60 to 90 days behind. By the time you find somebody, get them screened, get them interviewed, get them relocated. Okay? So part of this is really about moving more towards that direction of being proactive as well. This is also a natural extension of sourcing, right? That came up as a question before. Where is this whole sourcing thing coming from? I think the sourcing function, especially with larger, more complex organizations, areas of specialty, is really critical because of what it takes to find the type of talent that you need and bring that talent to the organization, so then you have recruiting that's doing more of that in-depth assessment before presenting to a hiring manager. But if you know what you're looking for, why would you break that up to different groups across the organization or leave that to hiring managers potentially? And yes, I'm talking about more mid to larger companies here, but why not centralize that? So think about this sort of more fluid mix of talent, right, that is accessible through profiles. And certainly in those profiles, you have things like your knowledge, skills, and abilities. You have your experiences, but you also have interests. What do they want to do? When do they want to do it? When are they available to do it? And if they have been on assignment for you, okay, when are they freed up as a resource? When, especially when I know that there's going to be some questions about sort of employment law around this, but when are they available to be reassigned to a new project? What does that look like in terms of a resource? So you know how to get a total look at this. And again, Master's going to get into some more of the depth of this. There certainly are some challenges around systems, but there's also some creative solutions, I think, that we can look at. So this talent profile begins to sort of fill this role as currency, right, in how we solve these business problems. And this becomes community-based. Okay, so coming back to community, this is really important, and that community has a social aspect to it. So we've got to find ways to keep people engaged. So if you can, if we want to look at a very quick little visual of this, and very rough visual of this, if I can figure out how to get the top off the marker. So if you figure that you've got different pools here, right? You've got this sort of internal talent management component, so you get this view, a real-time view, into the talent that you own. Like, how long do you think the CFO would put up with not being able to get information about what he needs or she needs, right, to make financial decisions for the company, yet every day, HR, recruiting, makes decisions about resources they need without real, clear, good information? And then you have sort of this bigger talent community down here that's your external, right? And then over here you sort of have like a segment of that that's an alumni community, right? Because what's going to happen now as soon as we've seen the stock market starting to turn around, boomers have been delaying retirement, what's going to start to happen as soon as people are a little bit more financially secure? They're going to want to continue to work, but chances are they're not going to want to continue to work in the same way. So this becomes an important connection, right? We obviously also over here have college, so we continue to invest in what that looks like, right? We want to continue to invest in emerging talent and what those people look like coming in. And then there's probably something that is also sort of internal, and this is something that we're hearing from some innovative companies, that they have these sort of, I'm going to call them internal resourcing programs, where they actually have like a roaming team of people that can be reassigned as needed as things come up. So there's a couple of different ways that we can begin to think about this and how we have these different pools, how we segment that data, and how we track it.